What is Flash Boost? Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, folks. I tell you, it is fantastic to see all of you showing up here Monday. All of you have been busy. Trisha, you were out fishing. I saw some of your entries for the Winter Fish Fest. Steve, Shaw, Walter, you two lads have been busy with all kinds of edits. Sally and Barry, if I'm not mistaken, you are down our neck of the woods. You came down this weekend to do some whitey fishing out on Lake Simcoe with our Slaunch Donkey charter and guide captain, Tyler Brooks. What's up, Ed McKenzie? Lloyd, heard about Canasi, and it was unfortunately canceled due to weather. But as I said to Walter, he was feeling really bad, and I just said, Walter, any decision that has, and unfortunately, in this case was a cancellation, if it's for the well-being of our chapter and our following and our family, it's not a bad decision. So to everybody who was hoping to get out there, Gord and Diana, I believe you guys were going to be cooking up some lunch. Can't thank you enough. It's the thought that counts. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's over. The winter is still there, it's still around, and there's still an opportunity perhaps that we can see you guys out on the lake, on the hard water, doing what we do best, and that's building community. Robbie Poirier is in the house. How we doing, Robbie? Jen Harlow, which brings me to my next announcement, and I think it's really important that we bring this up. We will be having a meet and greet at the end of February. It is going to be Saturday. Let me just look up at the calendar. So if you are interested in coming, make sure you reach out to Jen Harlow or the Fanatics Outdoor Adventures page, as Jen is the owner of that. February 26th, which is a Saturday, we'll be out on Stokel Lake. Perhaps Stokel, maybe Moira. Not 100% sure on the location. I'll leave that up to Jen and Scott to decide. But the 26th of February, be in and around the Stokel Lake, Moira River area. And we're going to be setting up camp. We're going to have a fish fry out in the hard water. So come by, say hello. But make sure you get in touch with Jen if you want to fish with us as a group. Sarah Dickerson's in the house. James Shembry, how are you, sir? Yes, we got so many great sponsors, Steve, and thanks so much for all the tagging you do. Of course, I can't, I'd be miffed if I didn't mention the CFN retreat, Jan Lake, Lodge is going to be hosting our Western retreat. And if you want to find out more about that, but I do believe all of the beds that could have been vacant are no longer. So that trip is completely booked from when Walter's telling me, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the photos and videos that are going to come from that. And of course, our CFN retreat, which we so look forward to. And as I said, it's the highlight of a lot of our summers. We look so forward to seeing our community getting back to where it all makes sense at Horwood. And if you're interested in experiencing a little of this, make sure you get in touch with Horwood Lake Lodge. Doris or Warren will gladly write your names down and put your arse in a bed, as they would say. But here's a little bit of a prelude. In the meantime, February 26th is where we're going to be getting together next out on Stokel Lake. Jen and Scott have all the details, so do not, and I mean do not hesitate to reach out to them. And of course, Doris, we can't wait to see you either. It was great chatting with you last week. It's busy times, but it's all starting to make sense. It's all starting to come together. Big shout out, and we have some great announcements for some of the partners that we're going to be having in 2022, as well as some of our prize sponsors. And we're going to get to that tomorrow with Mike Consul. Tourney Tuesdays is back because the Winter Fish Fest is on, and I've seen so many entries. It's awesome. It's actually it gets Mike and I through the weekend, but there's just so much awesomeness going on with you folks and your entries. And I'm hoping the My Catch is working for you. As I said, bring it tomorrow, Tourney Tuesdays. If there's any concerns, questions, or things you want answered or brought up, by all means, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock, Tourney Tuesday. Mike and I will have on some guests. We're going to be doing some finalizations after our live tonight to make sure that we have everyone, but our good buddy Jamie from True North Baits is going to be here, and we're going to be working on some others. But in the meantime, looking forward to what tonight is going to hold. I know Big Jim, he's got a lot of tying ahead of him, so I know he wanted to get going, but a big shout out to the one and only Dave Mercer, and of course our good buddy Jim for making it happen. But if you didn't see the interview last Thursday, I invite you to go back and look at it. We can even share the link from YouTube in the comments. It was awesome. It was a first for me. One, to talk to a hero and someone I look up to in Dave Mercer. And two, when I usually do an intro and introduce a guest, I usually don't get it that wrong. And a big shout out to Dave for being the professional that he is, because it was interesting. I had him down as a qualifier for the FLW Tour 9 times. Yeah, no. And then I believe he was a qualifier for the Bassmaster Classic. I think I had him down 8 times. No, I was reminded after the live that Dave has done no competitive fishing in the States, period. So where I got the bio, I have no idea, but I'll be honest with you, it was the best $1.25 I've ever spent. Anyway, shout out to Dave for being such a sport and just going with it, because at the end of the day, that's all you can do, right? When you get it that wrong. I'm just glad I didn't get anything else wrong. What we will definitely not get wrong is the intro to our next guest, the one and only Jim McLaughlin. But here is our rally cry. Here is our video. Here is our song. Have a listen and get pumped with the rest of us. There he is, the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin. How you
What's
doing?
going on?
Listen, it's really cool. Mike Howard, I can't thank you enough for posting this, but things are starting to get back to normal.
Yep.
Things are getting lifted, and we saw it on the weekend with many CFNers out on Lake Simcoe trying to hook into some whiteys or anything that would be willing to bite out there on Simcoe. Mike Howard has an invitation as well. If anybody's fishing Long Point Bay tomorrow, whatever we could do to get folks fishing, I'm in. I'm all in. I'm all in. So Mike and Tyler, Mark, and the rest of you who organized what went on out there, and of course to Walter who tried to organize something on Canarsie Lake, it just didn't happen because of inclement weather. It's just about getting folks fishing, and I'll tell you, Jim, right off the bat, I can't thank you enough for last Thursday with our good buddy Dave. I'm sure you get interviewed with him tons of times. What was it like doing it here live?
It was awesome.
Gun family. Yeah.
It was awesome, and it's so true, like you say. You had him a little bit more famous than he is, and that's hard to do with that guy.
I'm telling you, you guys are like sure professionals, because I was expecting all kinds of like snickering in behind in the lobby and laughing and what have you. But Dave,
that was after.
Yeah, well, I was part of it. I unfortunately took it on the chin, but Dave was just such a professional. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know that none of that happened.
and it's funny because the funny thing about that was that he wasn't joking when he said that was his 6th interview of the day.
Yeah,
because the Bassmaster Classic's coming up in about a little over a month, and he's already getting pounded from all the American stations. You don't realize how big it is in the States compared to Canada.
You get an idea when you start looking at what he's done. He is a very modest person, as we found out on Thursday. There isn't a lot written about him in terms of some of his accolades and accomplishments. But, listen, I don't have to be the one to say it. The fact that he is the host of the Bassmaster Elite Series says a lot about Dave Mercer, not just as an angler, a public figure, but the fact that he's Canadian, rubbing shoulders with all those successful American anglers, buddy. That is an accomplishment.
Well, I mean, he's had lots of them on his shows. Like he had the World Carp Championship with Swindle, where they sat on the bank with the straw hats on and chewing on pieces of grass like Huckleberry Finn or whatever it was. And of course, Swindle.
It was priceless, but as he said to me, he said, Scottie, before we went to air, he's like, don't worry. The other 5 did a horrible job. I'm sure you'll do just fine. And lo and behold, I made sure we were the worst of the day and got his entire bio wrong. So, Dave, thanks for allowing us to be the best of the worst of your day on Thursday.
Well, he said to me when I was messaging with him after, he said, let me know when you want me to come back, he said, and all we'll talk about is fishing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's you know what? And I get it, Jim. You get it too. Every once in a while, it's nice to hear, good things about yourself, coming from the mouth of somebody that you may not even know. But everybody likes to hear something positive. But you are no different than I, and Dave is definitely no different than us two.
See, it's really funny because we still, I'm pretty easy to recognize. And when I get made in public, my wife told me that there's several times she'll see me. I blush still to today when somebody makes a little bit of a fuss over you.
Yeah.
One of the really cool things that had happened, I don't know where I went, but it was Tim Hortons somewhere.
Yeah.
And when my coffee came out, they had written Big Jim and put a happy face on the top of the cup with the white pen like they do.
No way.
So somebody, they have a camera when you order. Somebody obviously looked at the truck, looked at me, and they fished. And oh, God, that's Big Jim. He's getting a coffee. And my wife said to me, you looked embarrassed when you looked at it. She said, you look like you almost got a tinge of, scarlet to your kisser. Like It's just, I don't know. I never got over it. You handle it well and everything. I still remember the first time I ever did a seminar was at the Ottawa Boat and Sportsman Show. And probably, I don't know, 350, 400 years ago. And they literally, Tom Brook, who was the vice president of Shimano at the time, they almost had to take the cattle prod to me to get me out on the stage. I was humming and hawing about everything. I was absolutely just terrified to do it. And then once they got me out, they couldn't stop me. They're standing up in the back going like this.
That's hilarious.
No, and then an animal was born when it came to doing that stuff. It was nothing to do 30 or 40 of those a year all over the country.
Yeah. I will say this, though. The most entertaining part of the interview, of course, was his job interview.
Oh, that's why I had that written down here. In fact, this pad's still sitting on the table here. See where it says job story?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let that go. I wrote that down there and put everything else on it.
That's awesome.
I didn't know that he had that cover of the magazine framed in. He got that. He's like somehow come up with that in the last not too long.
Yeah.
Maybe it was put away somewhere or something, and it just never made it up because it's a long time ago now. That's got to be, God knows, what is it, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I mean, imagine that. You get hired, your first gig is the classic.
Yeah.
It's not a tournament down a dirt road somewhere where there's going to be 300 people. Even when they go to Waddington here and they get 10, 12,000 people in the crowd, it's it's pretty wild. It's there's a lot of people there, but you don't see them. I learned a long time ago. Someone said to me, and it was the funniest thing, and I still use it to this day. They told me, they said, just look out there and imagine that every one of them is stark naked. That was what I was given as the tool.
And let's ask Jim, did it work?
Oh yeah.
as he says, humor in his eye. Wow. I don't know who's blushing more, you and I right now. But
look at.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But no, absolutely a great trip down memory lane for you, because you've done a lot of fishing with Dave over the years. What are some of the things that as I said, you touched on it quite a bit in the interview, but what are some of the things that you were really you're taken back at some of the accomplishments Dave has achieved?
Well, one of the things is, and I know what always comes back to it because he's Canadian, and that doesn't, that shouldn't make that much of a difference. But man, like to get to be the MC of the Bassmaster Classic and be a Canadian,
yeah,
and do all the elite events, and he does so much behind the scenes for Bass, like he does a lot of stuff, eh?
Yeah,
and it's just he takes things and he goes with them, and he just did this now with the TV show and the MCing, and he's just stuck with it. He's, I really don't think he's looking anything else. He found his place, as I see it. I could be wrong, but wow, it's just amazing what he's done. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
There was a point made by Steve, speaking of a great magazine and a great magazine cover, of course, the Please Freeze, Just Fishing, latest edition. There was some great stuff shared in regards to whitefish fishing that I think was shared on the news feed today. But if you want to pick up the whole magazine, every single bit of it from front to back, make sure you go over to justfishing.ca. It is you never seem to amaze, Jim, when it comes to the level of expertise you have as content in your magazine. Just the names are who's who. It's like the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. There is not a magazine in the U.S. or Canada that has a list of names like I have.
Yeah.
And once again, a lot of that comes down to long-term relationships, stuff like that. Like I got an email today from Gussie, and he had just finished practicing for the first tournament. Well, I guess he still has another day or two here, but he had finished and he sent over. He says, "Here's my article for the spring issue. If you don't want this, let me know soon so I can start work on another one." Because with a lot of the guys, a lot of these things would probably be in more than one magazine. But like it'll be in something in like down in Wisconsin, and then it'll be in something in Manitoba or something like that. So the internet does cross over, obviously, but the people that are looking at one are probably not looking at the other. And to tell you the truth, we've seen it in the past. We made a huge mistake years ago with just fishing, and somehow we ran the same story.
Oh.
A year later. I don't know how Tammy still to this day scratches her head how she did it. And like, it wasn't she had to work with it to make it fit and everything again.
Oh, wow.
And somehow it got in there and it just didn't click to her.
Yeah.
And nobody ever noticed or nobody ever said anything. And I'll tell you, I stopped responding to spelling mistakes many, many, many moons ago. I used to have a guy who was a retired school teacher. And God bless school teachers. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for them. But and I say that dead serious. I've told you the story about my teacher coming to the house with a case of beer and the pizza. And I went back to school Monday morning when I quit, was going to have a career at Harvey's. You know, I mean, you know, things like that, they go a long way. But unfortunately, you can't do stuff like that today.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, like imagine a teacher showing up with a pizza and a six-pack to have a talk with you to stay at school.
No, once. They'll do it once, and that'll be it.
They'd have them duct taped to a pole.
100%.
Yeah.
But those kind of life lessons, I tell you, they are invaluable, and they are priceless. And
for sure.
when you get one, as Jim just attests.
But anyways, he has to write, and he would send me a list of spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
Page 22, the second paragraph, and he'd quote it and circle it, and he says, I don't know how this happens. And, you're supposed to be a professional magazine and everything. The guy just had a bad life, I think, eh?
Yeah.
And I told him one day, I said, well, look, this is a mom and pop operation. So I said, why don't you do yourself a favor and save yourself a quarter on the stamp every once in a while when you mail me this stuff. Because he didn't even send on a computer. He used to just mail it. And I get it, eh? And the last one I sent back to him to his address, when I saw it show up, I wrote deceased across it, return to sender.
Only you, buddy. That's
like, me, I'm the easiest going guy in the world, but that was like,
that's hilarious.
And then he'd say, well, it could be if it was this English or that English or whatever. And he just, oh my God, he must have been horrible in school.
Yeah. Well, there's that. There's a way to teach and a way to lecture, and I don't, I can only take so much of either, to be quite honest with you. But
so, Matt, ice fishing, everybody's talking to me about slush.
Yeah.
Because of the snow. A guy sent me a picture, and he says to me, this is cool. And I look at the picture, and I go, is that your four-wheeler? He goes, yeah. And it's in the snow. If you were sitting on the four-wheeler, your bum might be getting wet.
Oof.
He got into it that deep. They had to go get a come along and about 300 yards of rope, really heavy rope, obviously, because from a long just stretch, right?
Yeah.
And then they were scared the rope was going to break, because you know what happens when rope breaks.
Yep.
Like you don't want to be around it.
No.
And anyway, they got some shovels, and they actually moved a lot of the slush with buckets, so it was sitting in its own little square just in water.
Mm-hmm.
But the water was like 2.5 feet deep, 2 feet deep. And it was only in one part of the lake.
Wow.
One section. So that one section from the weight of the snow had just literally bowed like this. It was just like a little bowl on the lake. And it's a lake not far from here.
It's amazing.
When we got that snow, we got Environment Canada said we got 42 centimeters of snow. Ottawa got 47, which is an hour up the road. But that's a lot of snow on the ice. We've talked about that before.
Yep.
Can you imagine adding that much, the weight of that snow on Big Rideau Lake, what that did?
It would raise the water for one, for sure. I don't know what kind of flooding.
I see it here now. Any of the lakes you drive past now, it doesn't look like it snowed on them. They're all just white frozen snow.
Yeah.
Because so much water came up, it absorbed in and froze. Right?
Jeez.
So.
It's amazing. I was out with Tyler on Tuesday of last week. It was the first time being out, actually, which was really nice. And I was actually amazed. He pointed out a hut that was on very close to his that is extremely heavy. And the weight of that one hut, unfortunately, allows a whole bunch of water to find its way on top of the lake. And again, being out on Georgian Bay, it's not somewhere I fish regularly, especially through the hard water. I can't emphasize enough the need to have a guide. I said to Tyler on the way back, there was a wet spot, and if I was out there by myself, I would have done everything I could to walk around it. But because he'd been across it so many times, he knew that it was safe. So again,
wet spots don't mean it's not safe.
Yeah.
That's the thing, especially when you get into this time of the year now. We're into February now. If it's froze up good now. If it's going to be frozen, it's frozen by now.
Yeah.
And we certainly made up for the cold here, but you still got to be careful because you don't get too many chances. The other thing is if you fall through when it's this cold. I still remember the guys at the fire department when they found the old lad out the back here the first year I moved here, when he fell through with the side by side.
Yeah.
Guy that grew up here, lived here all his life, he knew how dangerous it was out back here with the current because basically the Rito system. Well, you've been through it. You went through the channel with me. That one spot where it necks right down. It's twice the three. You might get three boats passed together in there without hitting.
Yeah.
Maybe you might if they were all really good drivers.
Yeah.
But like that, there's a lot of movement in there and a lot of current. And the old guy went through and they found him frozen to the hole, and that's just horrible. When you hear things like that, it was only four feet deep where he was. They could see the roof of the when they found him. They could see the roof of the 4x4 or side by side. It didn't go through. It was there, right. And he was standing on the bottom, I guess, and he got his arms and he couldn't pull himself out. And they found him frozen there, dead. That's nobody deserves to go like that.
No,
he was an old lad too. He was like 75. Wow. He'd been out there. He knew that place like the back of his hand. It just goes to show that no ice is safe, like I say.
Amen, brother.
Well,
true. Listen, I want to get you on your way. You've been busy with us the last couple of days and better part of last week. I know you've got lots of catching up to do when it comes to tying your infamous Jim's.
Yeah, I'm just like. Actually, I had somebody that's up here in Kingston on business, and they phoned me and said, can you make, and they sent me a list and they said, can you make this stuff for me and I'll pick it up from you tomorrow. So I've been making it right.
Beautiful.
Getting it all together here for
me. I saw those jigs that you made for James Meagher as well.
Oh yeah, on the back, yeah.
Mint.
Yeah, it just came out. I he gave me a box of them here one day. There must be 50 of them in it.
Wow.
And I just grabbed a few and I thought, I'm going to tie hair on the back. I always thought about doing it. And so I made them for him and he posted it. So then all the guys that make those now, I got messages from them all. Can you do
that? Well, dude, I'm going to let you go to produce some more magic. Again, can't thank you enough for all you do and what you bring to our community. It means the world, especially nights like tonight and last Thursday. Mint.
Hey, I got another big one in the bag. It's not the big one, but it's another big one. Probably be a week Thursday.
Wow. Alrighty. Well, you heard it first. Can't wait to find out what it is, Jim. In the meantime, if you're looking for a great publication, go to www.justfishing.ca.
Yeah, and I have both lists, and I can go back and forth, and I know who didn't go. Who doesn't go and look at. So it's,
So there's that. Alrighty, you take care.
Jim. Be good out there. Stay warm, stay safe, kiddies. We're almost there.
Amen, brother. Peace. Okay. Take care, dude. All right, and before we introduce our next guest, let's have a word from our sponsor from Camp McIntosh. Lawrence Gunther's in the house. How you doing, Lawrence?
I'm doing well, sir.
Fantastic. Listen, I've got a great question that I think will spawn some great interaction. Fernando, and I can't think of a better person to speak about this than yourself, Lawrence. But Fernando asks, I'm just curious, how do people leave their ice holes after they're done ice fishing? Do you cover them up with snow, mark them with a twig, or leave them open? There has been a lot of accidents lately of people falling through holes. It is true. There has been quite a few folks falling through holes. Lawrence, in your best and most professional manner, what would you suggest for someone as in your situation that has a disability caused by lack of vision? How do you properly mark your holes?
Well, the first thing you don't do is you don't throw trash in their hole. As I watched my my buddy and guide Yannick Lauranger from the Ottawa River Guided Fishing. We were out fishing last Wednesday together, and he wanted to pop open a hole for me that was, just handy. And he started going at it with a very expensive auger, and he went down maybe 2-3 inches in an old hole. And they say never drill in an old hole, but it's a hand auger, right? It's not like he's going to jerk himself. Yeah. Anyways, crack, hits a freaking chunk of plastic someone threw in there, broke one of his blades on his auger, So yeah, it's not a garbage chute. Don't throw stuff down your hole. And these aren't garbage chutes. It's just like throwing garbage over the side of your boat. But yeah, it's a good question. Like, honestly, I have a size 11 boot, and I'm walking around and I'm thinking, man, I've stepped through holes, 10-inch holes. My foot can pretty much go right through a 10-inch hole without too much. If it's lined up perfectly, I'm down. And I've seen other guys go down. But so there's something to be said. Now, I think the best thing to do is leave that cone around the hole.
Oh, you didn't just say that. No. Well, it was a good thing he's in a hurry because, he probably missed this right over his head. He didn't even hear it. It's all good. But yeah. No,
okay, I'm safe. We're safe.
After the fact, though, I don't think there's anything wrong with the cone effect. During the angling, pull your snow away from your hole. But when it's all done, I would have to say in your situation, that would be a good approach.
I think for a lot of people, just piling up some of that slush around the hole, you can shove it in the hole. It'll advance the freeze up a little faster. Shove all that slush in there. Yeah. It'll freeze up a little quicker. But, but if you make a little bit of mound there around it, it's a bit of a visual indicator, right? Especially if it snows and you get a little glare ice on top of the hole, and then it snows, a little snow blows over it. Yeah. Then that becomes like a booby trap, right? Yeah. So you want to have something that pops a little bit. I know whenever Big Jim tell you get rid of the cone, but just shove it back, make a pile around there, mound it in the hole, just mound it up around it a bit. If you don't have any sticks with you, that's the best thing.
Yeah, great solution, great advice. Jeanette is asking, and I'm not sure if you would be the best to answer this, or could be Jay too. Is there a user guide for the MyCatch app? She's having a heck of a time. Or is there a YouTube video that they can watch so that they can learn? That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think must be something on the website, but if let me know, and I'll reach out. I'll reach out to Sean and ask him, okay? And we'll get you that information, put it up on CFN, okay? And I'll do that tonight.
Fantastic. So there you go. And we will be covering it tomorrow, Turdy Tuesday. And by the looks of it, Jay Barnucz is also going to be covering it in our next segment. Lawrence, what have you been busy this past week, and what have you been up to? I don't know if you got to see the Dave Mercer interview, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I watched it. I love Dave Mercer. I've had him on the Bluefish Radio Show a few times. I like to say that this is a guy that's very accessible, and he's always been there for me. He's always picked up my phone calls. He's always answered my emails. I never wait. He's just a classy guy that way. And you can tell when you talk to him, like, he's just a guy, right? He's just a guy. He might be making a bucket of money, and he's pretty famous down in the States and in Canada too, but he's just still a guy, and it hasn't gone to his head. And wonderful wife. But I love that, and I love that segment. It's one of my favorite segments where Big Jim puts his crucial casting rod down to offer to help net Dave's fish, and his rod goes over the side of the boat. And I remember when Dave told that story the first time. He said, he said, Big Jim was so pissed about that, right? Losing that rod. He loved that rod. He was really pissed about it. And he's made Dave swear he's not going to include it in the show, right?
Oh yeah.
He's not going to put in the Facts of Fishing because it went right into the next Facts of Fishing TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And Dave said, "No, Jim, I wouldn't do that to you. I'm not going to embarrass you like that." Well, he put it in the show, and he put it in twice. The second time in slow motion of Big Jim lunging across the boat in slow motion, trying to get to his rod before it goes over the side.
Well, there you go. That's a testament to Jim. He'll go to no. There's no lengths that he won't go to help a buddy. And he knew, like Dave started talking, that segment starts, right? The cameras are rolling. You got to ad lib, right? You got to play with it, and boom, it goes over. But it was funny. Yeah, it was funny listening to describe that and talk about it. But as I said, it's pretty cool, and it's pretty proud to be a fellow Canadian angler when a guy like Dave Mercer, that for sure.
He is, when you see him give a live presentation at a Bass Pro Shop or the Toronto Sportsman Show or wherever he's speaking, there's the biggest crowd. And he's up there. He's half comedian. He's half, like stand-up comedian and the Facts of Fishing. Like, so the two together, it just makes for such a great show, such an entertaining, hour. They have to drag him off because he'll just go and go and go. But he's an absolute born entertainer.
And it's a question that I would love to ask, not on the live per se, but just in private, because at the end of the day, folks are expecting him to perform. As you said, he's part comedian, part announcer, but I'm sure trying to be funny 24/7 is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And when you're mercenaries, as they call them, is cult following demands that kind of level of entertainment. I'm sure there are days that move a little bit slower than others.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen him off. I've always seen him. He's always got that wicked little glint in his eye, and he's always ready to roast someone in the room, and he will take no hostages. He shows no mercy. It's just all out, behind the stage. Boy, he doesn't turn it off there either. He's on, and everyone's fair game. It's hilarious.
It is. It truly is. Bill, I'm glad you brought that comment up because I slowly but surely we are starting to get information that is leaking into CFN. And if folks don't know, especially in the Ontario area, there are going to be some shows that are going to be upcoming that you're going to want to stay tuned and hear. One, for instance, is our favorite, the Ice Fishing Expo up in Aurelia or Barrie, depending on where Mike holds it. But I've been speaking with Mike, and the Ice Fishing Expo is going to be a go. It's going to be in November by the looks of things. We also have the Peterborough Tackle Swap, and that's upcoming. That's soon. I'm going to have to get the dates on that. We're going to be making a post, but we will be there. OFC Nation. It'll be myself and Moose, and most likely Jeff. I know Steve Shaw has already said that he wants to make an appearance and help out. So more the merrier. I love seeing our CFN community, but this is our time now. We have done what everyone has asked us to do, and now let's start rebuilding our community. But yes, absolutely, Bill. There's some great stuff. March 20th is the Peterborough Tackle Swap. Lawrence, on your behalf,
Toronto Sportsman Show. I think it's March 17th for 4 days. 17th,
yeah,
4 days, and that's going to be a big show. That's the International Center. That's the big kahuna. And that looks like it's a go. It's a go, So, hey, let me tell you my catastrophe story from ice fishing last year.
Okay.
So we're out on the Ottawa River. It's my daughter's 16th birthday. So she wants to have some friends out. We got the snowmobile out. We rent a big shack, one of those big glamping shacks, and we got all sorts of room. People are dropping in, and so there's quite a we got a few people, and all of a sudden there's a cow on the ice. Like it just wandered over from Quebec across the Ottawa River. And at that point, the Ottawa River is frozen all the way across, but you go up river 2-3 kilometers and it's wide open. So it just gets wide there. So the current slows down. So it's frozen over, but a cow walked across the ice. So some guy, it's like maybe a couple hundred yards from us. Some guy comes out of his ice shack and he tries to herd it back. And doesn't the freaking cow charge him? right?
No.
So the cow's charging him. He goes down, the cow goes down, he gets up, but now the cow's between him and his shack, and he can't get back. So Lily, my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, gets on the snowmobile, and my son jumps on with her. He's got his camera, so they're going to go over there and take some pictures. So Lily walks up to the guy, and he says, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm okay. It didn't hit me. It didn't hurt me." And the cow's standing there, and it's still a little slipping and stuff. And I'm thinking, man, if this cow goes through the ice, no one's going to rescue that, right? No one's going to try to pull 1,000-pound, 800-pound cow out of the ice on thin ice. That's not possible. First of all, it's not possible, and it's dangerous. So this is a catastrophe ready to happen. We're really worried. So we're calling. We're trying to figure out who to call to get help. Well, this guy, he's called as well. My daughter tells me, and then 3 snowmobiles are going on the North Shore along the Quebec side, and he takes off his jacket, his yellow jacket, and he starts waving it in the air, and the snowmobiles come over. One of the guys gets off the snowmobile, pulls a rifle out of a scabbard, walks over to the cow, shoots the cow.
No.
Yeah, bonk, right there in front of my daughter and my son. They tie a rope around its legs. One rope goes to a snowmobile, the other one goes to an ATV, and they leave. Turns out it was a bull, not a cow, and it was at the slaughterhouse across the road, but it escaped. It was running for its life, and that was the end of that, right? So, how often do you see something like that, right? I mean,
well, you know what, Lawrence? Probably not often, and thankfully not often, at all. Because
it
was her 13th birthday, your
16th
birthday.
Yeah.
And she's out there probably with some friends, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, friends, yeah. Yeah, I weren't sure about going ice fishing probably before this. And then after seeing that, probably never went again, I would imagine.
No. She'll go again. You can never, I always tell them, look, you might think there's nothing going out on the ice. There's nothing going on out there, but there's always something happening. There's always something happening, right? What's... And I'm telling them coyotes, we're going to sleep over there. And I'm telling there's coyotes too. And sure enough, Yannick says, "Oh yeah," he says, "We got one. He's now coming within 100 yards of the ice huts now because he could smell all the minnows and fish guts and everything and the food cooking. So he's coming around like he's getting hungry. It's that time of year, and he's getting closer and closer. So the guide, he's packing a 308. He's got one handy just in case he has to, dissuade it from getting too close. So yeah, there's stuff happening all the time for sure."
Holy smokes. Absolutely. Well, listen, I had no idea that we had to put up our parental guidance.
Oops.
I'm kidding. But yeah, I can only imagine what that whole scenario. So we've heard some pretty wild stories from you being left out on the ice with some supposed friends and trying to find your way back. Now we're slaughtering cattle.
Catastrophe.
Is there a third? Because everything comes in threes, Lawrence. Is there a third to this story?
Oh, okay. One more. Look there. See that little dent there?
Oh, I knew it was coming. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got an old house, right? And it's got a pretty high roof. It's about 25 feet up from the driveway to the trough. At 30 feet. It's probably 30 feet. So I got my retractable lure retriever. It goes out to 12 feet. So I tape on a 4-foot rod with some duct tape on the end of that. And I'm standing out there with my son. He's watching me, and I go, "Am I getting close?" And he goes, "No, not yet." So I get the 8-foot step ladder out of the garage, and I'm getting you hold the ladder. I'm getting close up on the other top of the ladder. I said, "Am I getting close to it?" And he goes, "No, left, no, right, left, right." And he goes, "Dad, get down." So my 13-year-old son, he's not quite 14. He goes up the ladder and he can't reach it. So he moves the step ladder. And I said, "Be careful." So he moves the step ladder and he goes back up the step ladder, and I'm holding the ladder, and yeah, he hits it, but he's right in front of it, not right below it, but in front of it. What does that big massive icicle? It's as thick as your arm. It comes sliding down that pole like a skateboarder, bounces off his arm and beans me right in the head. Boom. And instant gusher coming out of my head. Right, I pull off my cap. I said to my son, "Go get some paper towel." Oh. And he's freaking out. He thinks I'm dead because there's blood, right? Head wounds bleed, right? Yeah. So he's freaking out. So he goes into the house to get some paper towels. My wife pulls in from getting groceries. she sees me bent over. I'm trying not to bleed on my coat. So I'm bent over the snowbank with trying to shove snow on my head. And she sees blood everywhere on the white snow. And she gets out of the truck. She goes, "What the hell?"
Jeez. Well,
So
now
there
we
you go.
understand, because the first bit of your segment, we were watching the dog scratch at the door, probably got it right down to the grain, trying to get out of that room. We
He
thought
was trying
maybe
to.
because it needed
Oh
to
my
get
God.
out. No, I know why that dog was trying to get out of that room with the stories that I'm hearing. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Most times when you're out on the ice, coyotes, maybe,
Coyotes, yeah.
maybe a wolf might be an issue, but I know, as Steve Shaw has mentioned, up in Nunavut, or Nunavut, sorry,
Yeah.
good buddy Douglas is having some issues with wolves. So our
Yeah.
thoughts are with everybody up in his small community that are dealing with it. I would say
Boy.
they're not being overrun, but they're having issues with wolves, and they're not fun to have issues with. Something that was said to me that will never leave me, and I'll never forget it. If you decide to go into the woods to hunt wolves, wolves will be hunting you first. They will already be hunting you by the time you sort of catch up to them.
Yeah, watch out for your small dogs and cats, right? I mean, there was a coyote that made it onto Center Island, right downtown Toronto.
Yeah,
and when they extended the pier there, the peninsula, and then they got that bad freeze, I think 4 years ago, the heavy freeze. We had that big winter, and a coyote made it onto the island. Every freaking cat on that island is gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Listen, what's coming up? I can't believe 15 minutes has gone already. What's coming up in the land of Bluefish Canada?
Well, Bluefish Canada is chugging along on all. We're working with the Invasive Species Center to work up some public service announcements for anglers around invasive species. So stay tuned for that. And we're also working with another group on invasive carp, working up some public service announcements and little video clips on that as well. So we're busy there producing content,
Nice.
and I've got the interview done, and Jason's going to like this. I interviewed Kim Tremblay from the Department of Natural Resources and Ministry of Forestries and something else, that big long name they have now. And she's responsible for fisheries management on Lake Nipissing. Cool. I've interviewed the chief Scott McLeod of the Nipissing First Nations, and I think they have 26 boats out there, and each one has 3 gill nets each, targeting walleye and a few other species. And I'm asking, okay, who gets the fish, right? Who gets the fish? And I got some pretty clear answers from these people. So I'm putting this together. I need to get one more interview done this week with a tourism operation representative, because there's tourism and Lake Nipissing go hand in hand, right? I mean, that's what all there is up there is tourism for the most part. And so I need to get their voice. So we'll be stitching those podcasts out there over the next week and a half, 2 weeks. It'll be featured in the Bluefish News next Monday with an editorial from me trying to pull some of these threads together and make sense of it for you guys.
Well, stitching, very apropos that you use that term and that phrase, as your stories would suggest that you are quite familiar with stitching and the need for it and how to do it.
No stitches, just tape.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Christina's, it's sold. I'm not sure what that is referring to, if it's the commercial fishery, but very interesting to hear that podcast from a First Nations standpoint and the commercial fishery that is associated with that First Nations up there on Lake Nipissing.
I didn't hold back on the questions. He said to me at the beginning, there's no questions he can't answer. And I said, okay. And I put it all to them. I asked every question I could think of. And in the end, he said, normally I just have the straight old question answer kind of interview. He said, but he said to me, you and I, we really got into some philosophical discussions on this. And he said it was very interesting. We really, I think I stretched him and he certainly stretched me, and we had a good exchange. But you guys judge for yourself.
Well,
I mean, with the ministry, it's a little different because you have to submit your questions in advance. You can't go off script. You don't want to get someone fired, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I will invite everyone to go over to bluefishradio.com to see that latest upload and that latest interview. I myself would love to see a First Nation representative being candid about their feelings about the commercial fishery that they use and are on the shores of, especially Lake Nipissing, because as we've mentioned, Lake Nipissing has a lot of politics surrounding it, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that interview.
We even get into the spearfishing, of walleye on their beds. So
cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Lawrence, as always, dude, thanks so much for joining us Monday. Again, I can't believe how fast 15 minutes go, but you're always a gem, no matter how long the segment, and we really appreciate it, dude.
Well, that means a lot to me, Scottie, coming from you guys. And thanks everyone for making this time available for me. Appreciate it.
Right on, Lawrence. You stay classy, and we'll see you. Well, we'll talk to you probably before we see you. How's that?
Sounds good, buddy.
Hey, dude.
Sounds good.
All the best. And here's a word from our next sponsor, Barnucz.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
Barnucz is in the house. How you doing, J-Dog?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Oh, I tell you, it has been a busy, I would say, busy couple of weeks here at CFN with the infamous Winter Fish Fest that we just launched.
Yeah,
we'll be talking about that tomorrow. But as you mentioned just before we came to your segment, if there are folks out there that are looking for a how-to video or some kind of user's guide to the MyCatch app, you were going to be able to point them in the right direction.
It's in the chat, buddy, right there.
There you go.
It's a playlist that MyCatch has to teach us how to use it. So Trevor and I tested out the app last week. So after the show on Monday night, we went ice fishing on Tuesday night. I told everyone on the show that we were at the peak of the lunar phase for that part of the month, and we had low pressure dropping. So we had some warm weather with some cold weather coming in, but low pressure was right at that nice drop. We've talked about that on the show. And we went out. First fish I caught. So we left here at 3:30 after work, after school. First fish I caught at 4 o'clock was a 13-inch crappie. First fish, first drop, bang.
Oof. Wow.
Not a huge one.
Still
bigger, but that was pretty sweet. And I only had the 6.5-inch auger, not the 8. So Trevor got a wet arm. He's still complaining about it. So it fit fine, but it was wide enough that you had to reach down and turn it to get it up the hole. So
wow. No, yeah. Decent fish. I did see the pic of it. It is extremely decent. I'm going to let you answer as well. When it comes to, and you're a guy that likes to run and gun, how do you cover up your holes once you're done?
That's a good question, Scottie. You know what? It depends on the body of water and kind of what's going on out there. So Tony's comment really speaks to a lot of the smaller urban fisheries that I will fish from time to time. Okay. I've had kids, my kids included, who have done the old foot down, and so you got 1 foot on top of the ice and 1 foot going down. Okay. Especially in an 8-inch hole. A kid won't fit down an 8-inch hole. Well, at least my kids won't. That's too much like their dad. But to be honest, you got to be careful in those areas, because in those urban fisheries, there's lots of people out and about. Okay. So if you can, mark them with a stick, and you can try to bring the sticks, like some sticks with you from shore when you go out, or something from home. That's the only way to do it. You know, when I'm running and gunning on Long Point Bay and I'm out in the middle of the lake and it's cold, I'm just going to kick some slush in my hole. It's going to refreeze in minutes. Right. And I think that's where we as anglers have to use some judgment. If you're out on a mild day where there's lots of slush and your holes are going to stay open for a period of time, you're probably going to want to try and mark them somehow. You know, even marking them by building snow up. You know, I know Jim's against the snow cone, but no snow cone when you're fishing. But I think the snow cone is okay when you're done to build up your spot if you want to mark it that way too. So that's the only advice I can give. But when you're in urban fisheries, and really, I really pray people don't use 10-inch augers. You do not need a 10-inch auger in those urban fisheries. An 8-inch is plenty. In fact, most fish you're going to catch will fit through a 6-inch hole. So,
yeah, very true.
Yeah,
great question, Alicia. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck had to follow J-Dog and his running and gunning? I would say it would be a good
Alicia saw me at work on Saturday. I was kind of, so we went exploring we met up with the Raytrowskis. We stopped in Wallaceburg. Shout out to Dave McCready at Ed's Baits and owner of Angler's Choice Plastics. We went to Wallaceburg, picked up a few shiners, and Dave's got great bait. I didn't tell Dave this, but I'll tell him now because I didn't look at my minnows until after. He has the most beautiful little pinhead shiners, Scottie. You know the ones I'm talking about. Like, you go to some shops, and I'm not complaining, but all I want is the head, and these things are like little tarpons. Like, these emerald shiners are like 6 inches long. Dave has beautiful little pinheads. So if you're going down to Lake St. Clair, Mitchell's Bay area, even Rondo area, even if you're on the way to Sarnia, check out Dave McCready, Ed's Baits in Wallaceburg. Great guy. Been going there for years, has a decent supply of stuff. So met up there, went to a couple spots, didn't pan out. First spot we went to was a spot it was a beautiful spot, Scottie. I'm not going to give out any information. It's actually a creek arm off the St. Clair River. I know of some fish there. We went there with Alicia, Trevor, and TJ and I. The four of us spread out, and like, Alicia's not lying. When I get the auger in my hand, dude, I am drilling holes. Like, I love to cover, especially when fishing shallow water. I will drill 20, 30 holes before I start to fish in all kinds of the deepest part of the channel. If there's logs or pilings along the shore, I get all that noise out of the way. Okay. I don't like to wear cleats on the ice when I'm fishing in shallow water because it scares the fish. Like, I'm very, I'm very meticulous about this stuff. Anyways, it just didn't pan out. We got some small perch. Trevor did catch a beautiful bluegill. It was probably over, we didn't measure it for sure. It was over 8 inches, might have been 9 inches. Beautiful bluegill. So I'll give the kid credit for toughing it out. And then we went to another area, which we thought was going to be really good. We kind of timed it to go to this spot around 2-3 o'clock as the sun was kind of going down. And then we had the wind change, some snow started coming. I'm like, this is going to be great. And all we could catch were gizzard shad. Man, there was gizzard shad like I've never seen, Scottie. Like, we were snagging them on my jig and spins. So,
and they're big. They can get so big. Those
some of them were so small. Like, I don't know if you guys will even see this here, but like some of these. So see those gold ones?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are like size 12 or 14 tungsten jigs. Those are tiny. Like, I don't even know how I can tie them on, to be honest. And I actually caught a shad, like a gizzard shad like that, in the mouth.
Wow.
Like, and I was just using that little gold tungsten jig with a maggot. And just how it goes. So Saturday was a bit of a bust. And then Sunday, get home Saturday night, actually. And of course, Trevor wants to go fishing like right away. Like, Dad, today wasn't great. We got to go again. Got up Sunday morning, went to Collins Harbor, and the wind was blowing 30, 40K out of the southwest. Like legit crazy wind. So we took the shuttle out with Collins on Lake Long Point Bay, hooked up with my buddy Brett and my buddy Chris, which was awesome. Shout out to Chris and Brett. And you know what, Scottie, when you got days like that and there's drifts and you got your buddies who have a quad, I'm taking the quad ride, man. I'm taking the quad ride for sure.
Good times. Absolutely. No shame in that, buddy. No shame at all.
But I won't lie, it was such a miserable day, and we have our pop-up shelter is what we were using. Yeah. It was so windy, we didn't bother moving around too much. Caught good numbers of fish, a lot of small fish. But I want to give everyone a tip that I kind of listened to on a podcast, and it really worked out for me and Trevor. So if you ever travel with me on a fishing trip, it is either hard rock music or fishing podcasts. and sometimes a mix. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. So I was listening to the Jason Mitchell Outdoors podcast, and they were interviewing a guy who fishes for perch on Devil's Lake. Okay. And he said during tough weather, he wants to downsize his jigs. So, but then he's like, how do you get a number, like we're talking like a number, that's a number 3 tungsten jig, 3 millimeter tungsten jig. Okay. How do you get that down 25 feet? Here's what his tip was. And even in Long Point Bay, which is 8 feet deep where we were fishing, it worked good. Tungsten's heavier than lead, right, Scotty?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Simple idea. Just put a split shot up above your tungsten jig. You want to get that jig back down quick. You want to keep that school in the area. But they wouldn't bite, a bigger tungsten jig. So that's a 5 millimeter, which I love to use. Okay. And it gets down twice as fast as a 2 or 3 millimeter, but it was too big. Even the tiny perch were like looking at it, whereas most days they just come up. And I'm talking a tungsten jig with 2 maggots on it. They were just playing with it. But if we put a small one down, they would actually eat it. Wow. So a split shot saved the day, man, and they won't get tangled because tungsten's denser than lead.
Yeah.
So as long as your split shot's not massive, if it's the same size as your tungsten will still fall first. So
makes sense.
Yeah, man. So that was kind of a cool
and how creative do you get with it, Jay? Like, would you start adding beads to that kind of presentation? Like, how far would you take it?
You know what? That's a good question. Like for me, we're lucky that we can sight fish these things in less than 10 feet of water. So you can really read their behavior. But actually watching those perch, so you see them come in on the screen, okay, on our flasher. So this is what I do. My back is not as flexible as Junior's, okay? So Trevor, he likes to hang over the hole. Me, I sit back, I watch my flasher, okay? And usually what I do is I dead stick one rod, I just leave it, and the other rod I work, okay? So there I am working the one rod, and I'll see perch come in and leave, come in and leave, come in and leave. And I'll try and jig them up, and they just take off. But they're not like darting in. They're coming in slow and then leaving slow. And it was just their mood. They were just in a very negative mood, Scotty. So even by using the marks on the flasher, we had to figure out what to do. And I went through – I had to downsize everything. I downsized all my spoons. I downsized here, actually, I'll grab one of my spoons I was using. Now, by the way, if you guys have these ammo boxes, that's my favorite box for ice fishing tackle, man. Keeps it tight. It's watertight. Don't have to worry about snow getting in there. So you guys have heard me rave about these little dinner bell spoons. Well, they actually work really good for perch too. And to be honest, though, Scotty, I'm usually using that size. That's a 1/4 ounce.
Yep.
But yesterday, Sunday, I'm gonna try it. Dude, my fingers are like, I got sausage hands, right?
Likewise. Like, who ties this? Does Trevor tie this for you?
No, I tie him.
And I'm assuming with magnifying glasses like the size of Coke bottles.
I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. So
I would.
That's a 1/4.
Wow.
That's a 1/4 beside a 1/16 ounce dinner belt. Jeez. And they want that 1/16 ounce. Usually a perch loves that little bit bigger spoon, and I'll call them in with it.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't take that bigger spoon. They wanted the smaller spoon. So that's just how it was. But what's important as anglers is we got to get out there, and we have to don't get frustrated and don't settle for not catching any fish. And now if we weren't marking any fish, I probably would have moved more, but we were always marking fish. We just had to stay on top of them and keep them, change our presentation so we work together as a team. So, and I heard a lot of people did pretty poorly on the weekend. And I think because locally around here, we had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, crazy storm, right? Huge low pressure system. And then massive high pressure system Friday afternoon into Saturday into Sunday. And I think that you had a massive swing in weather over 6 days.
Agreed.
And I think the fish were just in a bit of a funk. But someone still gets them.
Yep.
One of my buddies got 68 or 78 perch on Sunday morning or Saturday morning, like lickety split, right? It's always
Wow.
happened. That's fine. No problem. Yep.
I was reminded today of the incidental catch that is available to anglers that are out on the hard water, and how fun those incidental catches are. Mike Howard shared a video where he caught a pike, decent pike, through the ice.
Yep.
He was targeting smaller fish, but managed to hook this thing in, and I think he was only using 3 pound. Jay, I'm going to invite you to share with us one of your most coolest incidental catch stories.
Oh, geez. You know, it was the first time I hooked a channel cat through the ice. Wow. And I was in the middle of Hamilton Harbor. It actually would have been 5 years ago this week. And, you know, I was in 30 feet of water. We're talking about coyotes. I think I've told this story a little bit, where like sometimes when I fish, I'll fish after work and then through the night, not all night long, but I won't come off the water till there. Alex, 78. There you go, Alex. So, you know, I won't fish through the night, but I'll get coyotes patrolling the tent. Okay, it's happened. So anyways, Hamilton Harbor, 30 feet of water, trying to catch walleye. And I'd caught a couple walleye. And then all of a sudden on my buckshot spoon, I'm working this fish. And it's not behaving like a walleye. Like I'm watching it on the screen. It's just like on my Vexlar, it's like a red blob. But it's not behaving like a walleye. At least a walleye has a little more of a sachet to it. But this fish was just, I'm like, what is that fish? And then it hit. And then I just basically, it hit and didn't run it. I got it almost to the top of the ice. And as soon as it got to the bottom of the ice, it like took off running. I thought, is this a carp or something? I ended up being a channel catfish. And they're just so cool to catch through the ice. But I've caught a lot of big fish through the ice. And you know what? Down on Long Point Bay, there's so many big pike crews in Scottie. Like it happens all the time. Our buddy Brett yesterday got a 30-something, 32, 34-inch northern pike yesterday.
Wow.
And I'm proud of Trevor. He's learned this winter the pin technique. So what's the pin technique? Most fish are lost at the hole when they're ice fishing. Why? Because people want to lift their fish out of the hole with their rod. Bad idea. You either want to, if you're by yourself, you want to get the fish to the top of the ice. And if you can't reach down, you want to try and just have a spot in your shack or outside where you can drag that fish up onto the ice, just out of the hole slowly. Don't lift it. Because once that fish is even partially out of the water, gravity takes over. And our ice fishing baits typically have small hooks and they fall off. So it was cool yesterday to see my buddy Brett yell, "Pike, pike!" So we get out of the hut, wind's blowing. It's like, you know, we hop on a tauntaun, ride over to Brett's hut, right? Like it's like Empire Strikes Back yesterday. So we get over there. You know, so Trevor jumps off his tauntaun, opens up the clam, and there's Brett, and we see this pike cruise by the hole 3 times. And Brett's kind of nervous, and Trevor's like, I got this. My dad showed me how to pin it. And this is like WWE, man. He waits till that fish gets in the hole. Trevor got it, and he gets down on his knees, and he waits. And as soon as that pike's head is in the hole, Trevor just reaches down, and you pin that fish against the side of the hole. You pin it, and it doesn't move. And then you just slowly kind of grab it and just drag it up on the ice. And that works for us for walleye, for pike. But we have a spot in our shelter that's our work area, where if we get a big fish on, it's a spot where you can kneel down and a spot where you can bring your fish up. Be ready, because it's going to happen.
It's a great time to talk about fish handling again with the Winter Fish Fest upon us. And, you know, as I said, we're seeing some great videos. I've been seeing some videos on social media platforms where folks have incorrectly handled fish, and you can tell, for instance, a big walleye. I shared it in our legacy group chat. I'm glad the gentleman said that he was going to put it on the wall, because the bloodstream that came out of the gill plate of that fish would indicate that it wasn't going to live, if in fact it was in hopes of releasing. So, you know, good decision by that angler at the time to decide that it's his personal best and mount it on the wall. But the importance of fish handling, yes, it is only an 8-inch hole or 10-inch hole, depending on what you drill, but where you put your hands, how you pin your fish up against the hole, which is great advice. But just, you know, good handling skills.
Yes.
If you're out in the cold, those fish, if you lay them out on the ice and they don't have that thermal protection like you have with, you know, your buddy heater or whatever, that skin is immediately freezing. The eyes are immediately freezing the minute it touches ice. So make sure we're not having them lay there. Are there any other suggestions you might add as well, Jay?
Use your shelter as much as you can, because there's days even out on the open ice when I'm running and gunning around, I still keep the hub set up as like a warming spot. And if we get a big fish, Scottie, we can take it inside the hub. So if I'm out 30, 40 feet away from the hub or further, and I get a big fish on, and I want to get a picture of the fish, I want to get a measurement on that fish, I would rather just drop my rod, leave it where it is, take that fish back to the hub, keep it warm. And if I want to give it a breath of water, okay, I can stick its head down the hole. Now you got to hang on to it. You don't want to, don't release it prematurely. But honestly, just get it back inside of your hub. Get yourself warm so it doesn't freeze, okay? And then take the pictures you need. Take the video you need. I think I like the way this contest is done where, if you're going to keep it, that's fine. I think when you're doing the MyCatch app, which again, I'm just learning how to use it myself as a tournament entry. I've used the app before for information, but as a tournament app, first time I've used it, I would definitely consider saying in the video that I'm going to keep this fish. Like, just come right out and say that you're going to keep it. It's okay to do that. We're all entitled to it as long as we're following the proper regulations, right?
100%. And you know what? It's true. And when it was shared, some would suggest that right away I would have been upset, but the gentleman, he recognizes that there's no way this fish is going to live. It is his personal best. So in that situation, you're 100% right, Jay. You have every right to take that fish home. All we try to do is encourage the release of those bigger fish, but they got to be handled properly if you're going to do so. So grabbing a fish from the gill plate, pulling it through a 6 or 8 inch hole is not advisable. And as Christina's asking, do they go blind if you lay them on the ice? They can. Yeah, they can.
Yeah, it's the tissue damage. It's the tissue damage to the eyes and to the skin itself too. So we just have to be careful with the fish that we handle. Like that evening that we were out running and gunning last week for crappie, the air temperature was -2 and no wind. And so it was not actually, I think when we drove to the lake, it was +2 and the sun was shining. So I wasn't worried about that night. But again, I don't need to fish inside the hub. God, Lord knows, Scottie, my new Striker ice suit, that thing, it's bulletproof, but I can fish in the coldest weather with that thing. And it's not even the high end one. It's the Predator series. I love fishing outside with it now. The only thing I don't like is that when it's that cold, my holes freeze over. That's my only pet peeve, Scottie.
Yeah.
But the fish will freeze, so take care of them that way. Another question here from Sean, which is a good one. Do you bleed your fish if you keep it? Yeah, you should. I don't notice that much of a difference with the smaller fish, like if I'm keeping some perch or some bluegill. But definitely when I'm keeping larger fish like walleye and whitefish, I'll bleed them out. And I know this is graphic content tonight here, killing cows.
I know.
There's some good videos on YouTube how to bleed out fish. Basically, what you want to do is you want to sever the connection with the gills to the head. Okay, and actually, I have a small pocket knife, not even a fillet knife, just a pocket knife in my kit that I will sever that, and then I'm going to take the head and bend it back just a little bit because I want to maximize the blood that comes out of that fish. I do find that the fillets are much better quality. Especially if you're out all day. If it's an all-day fish, you want to bleed those fish and take care of your meat. It's such a privilege to be able to catch fish and harvest your own fish, Scottie. It really, truly is a privilege. I don't call it a right. To me, it's a privilege of getting to where we live here. And to me, I want to have the best quality meat that I can. And I never used to bleed them out like that, but a few years ago, a good friend of mine showed me the difference between the flesh from a bled out walleye versus a not bled out walleye, and I was really impressed with the quality of the meat. So it's really good advice.
100%. Definitely a practice that we have learned also well up at Horwood Lake Lodge, that when you do catch your keepers, that you do bleed them out in your live well. And yeah, we find the meat is a lot whiter. a lot less gamier tasting, if you could even say that about walleye. But
even in summer too, like bleed them out and then put them in a cooler with some ice. That's even better than your live well. Like the meat just stays. If you're not going to clean them till the end of the day, I highly like. You don't want a bloody slurry of ice, but bleed them out, wash them off, put them in a cooler with ice, and that meat quality stays great the entire day for sure.
I've also seen this technique as well. Lloyd's mentioned it about cutting the tail off. I've seen a small incision right at the fork of the tail that people will make, and it will slowly bleed out the fish. So there's that approach as well. But yeah, I think the easiest and most recommendable approach to that would be right at the gills, right at the gill plate, sever it, and as Jay is mentioning, just bend the head back so you're allowing the most.
Yeah, and it's smart to euthanize fish as soon as you catch them. Like if you're going to keep them, you should euthanize them as quick as possible. To me that's the right thing to do, right? So, so either a sharp blow to the head, like the old crack knuckle here in the middle, right? However you want to do it. But yeah, euthanize them. They'll last longer and keep better for you for the day. So,
good advice. There was a question up here about mud puppies.
Yeah. Saw that.
Where did it go? It was just there.
Oh, from Justin. How about mud puppies? I heard they catch through the ice. Yeah. So mud puppies are really interesting. Actually, they're most active in the wintertime, and they do a lot of. I believe they breed under the ice or close to ice out. That's why they're so common through the ice. So they're a very sensitive species and definitely don't want to be handled too much. So what I suggest is if you do hook them, it's incidental, but unhook them as quick as you can and get them back down the hole. Like one thing I try and stress with people too is keep, when you're in your hut, keep your tools handy for all these things I'm talking about. That's why I like this hard box here, Scottie, because, in this box, what I do with this box is it sits right between Trevor and I, okay, or whoever's in the hut with me. I got my tray in the top. My tray has like a lot of my tools, and then I have all my little boxes underneath. And if you want to change lures or whatever, it's right there. It's a flat surface, good for putting your sandwich on, and it's watertight. Your stuff doesn't get wetted there. It's just a great tool. But having your tools handy, like your knife, geez, man, like this is what I clip on my suit every day. So I got my clippers. I got my little hook remover.
Yeah.
I've talked about these so much. Like,
brilliant.
You know what? Every of those tungsten jigs, what are those worth? Like $3-4 a pop. Some of them. Like, do not use your heavy duty needle nose pliers on those jigs. This is what you use, and this will also remove a perch eye. If anyone's familiar with that technique, that will remove a perch eye very, very easily. It's a theme of tonight's, Scottie. We're just I've just put it up the R rating for tonight's show. Yeah, just throwing it up there just in case anybody. Yeah. And Bill, I knew there was a reason why you didn't cut the tail off, and thanks so much for that answer. It just dawned on me. You're 100% right. Yes.
People make the incision as opposed to cutting it right off because of slot limitations. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bill. You got to be careful of that, and that's the other thing too about cleaning your fish on the ice. Make sure you know what the slot is, and make sure, how do I want to put this? Like when you're cleaning your fish, COs are still doing inspections all the time. I know on Quinny, they don't go on the ice, but sometimes they're waiting for you when you get off.
Yeah.
So make sure you've measured your fish properly and make sure you've taken care of them properly. And if you have cleaned them, because I know some anglers will clean their fish on the ice, you got to leave that little patch of skin identifiable, right? So absolutely.
If you are cleaning your fish, I highly recommend that you be in the know and make sure that you read every restriction guideline or any fish podcast that will talk about it, because you get that wrong and it can be painful in the pocketbook. Jay, before we go, is there anything else you wanted to mention or bring to light?
You know what? I just wanted to, you touched on it. the first part of the show with Jim and even a bit with Lawrence, like there's so many great shows coming up.
Yeah.
Sportsman shows still scheduled for March this year, and as is the Peterborough tackle swap. But just this week, I heard from who was I talking to this week? So Scottie, the Spring Fishing and Boat Show are going to put on an ultimate ice show.
Oh,
this
really?
fall. Yeah, and it's going to be. I'm going to put a link here in the comments. It's going to be the weekend after the Canadian Ice Fishing Expo. So I'm going to put a link to both because I'd like to go to both myself. So the Ice Fishing Expo is going to be now, like you said, Scottie. We don't know the location yet. It's going to be Barrie or Aurelia or somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But both of those events are happening this November on back-to-back weekends. So the Barrie one is going to be the weekend of like the 18th, 19th, 20th, and then something like that. And then the Toronto one, which is going to be out of the International Center with host by the Pilatas, is going to be the weekend of the 25th, 26th, 27th of November.
Very cool. Well, there you go. Normally we're not that busy in November, but we have lots of reason to get excited.
And I want to just let some folks know, like talking with the folks at Pure Fishing and even some other companies, because we've missed the trade shows this year, what you're probably going to see is, a lot of your local tackle shops will be putting out sales this spring, like a spring sale of some kind. And the rumor is that a bunch of, like even myself, we're going to be called out to go to some of those stores and do like in-store promotions to support some local shops. So we won't have trade shows as much this spring as we have in the past, but there will be some great events coming up at individual stores. So be aware of those. Those are probably going to start in April or May.
That's cool. Very, very cool. Jay, as always, dude, thanks so much. One of the really cool things before we leave, I'll touch on is as far back as I was looking for stuff on Dave Mercer, it was incredible to see how far you yourself go back with your friendship with Dave, and some of the older pictures that I saw, you look like a young, strapping young man in some of those.
Man, I've been, I guess I've been involved in this since 2000 and like 2005, 2006, pretty much when I finished school, Scottie, and I've been involved in some way, shape, or form. Mostly the last 15 years. Like I think my first like promotional staff position was with Bass Magnet Lures and Live Target Lures when Trevor was born. So we're looking at 14, 15 years ago. So yeah, smaller me, younger me. But you know what? Dave's a great guy, and one of my favorite memories of Dave, I'm going to share one before I sign off, is 2 years ago in Knoxville, Tennessee. We went to the Bassmasters Classic. Dave was the MC. We went to watch the blast off from downtown Knoxville on the river. It was March 16th. Why do I know that date? Because it's the same date as Stephanie's birthday.
Oh, wow.
So we have a family picture with Dave Mercer with all the bass boats in the background. They just blasted off, and it was Stephanie's birthday, and she got our family picture with Dave Mercer at the Bassmaster Classic launch site. And that's one of my favorite memories and one of our favorite memories in this house. Dave's he's just a constant pleasure to hang out with at those events. And I don't always get to hang out with him all the time, but working with him at some of the events and just chilling with him and just shooting the breeze. And he's fist bumping Trevor backstage. He's just a good human being, man. He's a great ambassador of the sport, and, proud to know him. Absolutely.
Amen.
And you know what? Two more things. So Tony, where do you get that tool for removing small tungsten jigs? You know what? I own a few of them because you got to order from the U.S. You got to pay some duty. They're really cheap, but you got to, what is it called? Someone's going to share it. I can't think of the name right now.
I can't either. Yeah, I can't either.
But the, what is it called? Oh, you know what? I got a spare one right here. Cold Snap Outdoors. Look up Cold Snap Outdoors, okay? And they have two different sizes. They have a long one and a short one. And the one that I have here, that's the short version. Okay. I don't know if there's any difference. I got longer ones somewhere too. Cold Snap Outdoors. It's honestly like a $2 tool, maybe $3 US, something like that. It's just a piece of plastic, molded plastic, but because it's from the US, you gotta pay some duty on them. So buy a few of them. Fish USA has them too, Tony. So you're listening. FishUSA.com has them. And if you buy a few, because all your friends are going to want one, and I would always get two because someone always loses one. So and to wrap up, Scottie, there we go. Sean found it. To wrap up, Friday morning, Trevor and I are headed with some buddies. Some of them are listening in tonight. We're heading to Floyd Hales for the weekend. Friday,
nice.
Saturday. Yeah. So may not get ice fishing in this week because we got some prep to do. We got some packing. We can't take it all, man. So we're doing the bungalow thing. So
right on. Yeah. Well, dude, we look forward to it as we always do with all of your content. As I said, you are one busy cat, and now that you got the whole family involved, it's even more fun to see what you folks are up to. But just keep up the good work, dude. The great work is very much appreciated, and your content we certainly look forward to.
And hey, thanks to you guys too. I really love this new Winterfest using that app, and I know I saw some folks are like not a big fan of the app, but give it a chance, guys, because shout out to CFN and all the great volunteers and the huge workload that goes into managing these events. And this Winterfest, I know, is a trial to see how we can streamline this for future events. So in the MyCatch app, out of all the other apps, that data is being used to help Canadian fisheries, okay? Because there's some other great, I use Fish Donkey, I've used TourneyX, I've used them all, but this MyCatch one is homegrown right here in Canada, and it's helping us. So shout out to you and Mike and all the rest of the CFN core that are, taking this on. I know change is not always easy, but I think it's a really good change, Scottie, because I know what it takes to pull off what you guys do. So thanks to you, man.
It was a big decision, something that we had to think on the fly, whether it was going to work, whether it was going to be received by the community. I know some folks still aren't warming up to the idea of using an app, but I do recall mentioning it to Tyler Brooks, and he said, Scottie, if I had known it was going to help with fisheries research, dude, I wouldn't have been reluctant at all. He says, I'm in. I'm 100% in. So when you hear stuff like that, and that this app is different in its approach, and it really is bridging that gap that I've always spoke about when it comes to the anglers and our researchers and the science. The true heroes of all this are the folks who came up with that MyCatch app. It's brilliant.
And the last question, is there a way to find out what data the app has produced? Actually, didn't Lawrence just highlight some of that recently? So maybe tomorrow night, Scottie, on Tourney Tuesday, I shared that playlist tonight. Maybe share that again, and maybe post that playlist in the Fish Off. And I know there's a couple of CFN moderators listening in. Post that playlist. It's great. Explains everything. And then maybe some of Lawrence's content about how the app's being used, how the data is being used. There's some great stories being told out there. And it's all from just us anglers who like to catch fish.
And that's it. And that's truly it. I mean, we do have Sean on and a few of the others that are involved in this app on a Tourney Tuesday to explain it and why we're going this route, why we're looking at this for our online multi-species tournament. It'll make sense. And the fact that there are some areas in this beautiful country that have yet to have any submissions from fish. So I know I tasked Sean to get us a list of maybe upcoming lakes that they would want to target and see some information from that we can help with the Fish Off. I think that would be really cool. But at the end of the day, as I said, any way we as anglers can help out, the science and our researchers that devote all their time to making our fisheries better. If we can help by just submitting a fish, let's do it. I'm in.
100%.
Right on, brother. Well, listen, thanks. You guys enjoy your travels, and we look forward to all of your incredible content.
Peace, everyone. Have a good one. See ya.
And in true Dave Mercer fashion, I can't think of a better way to end this segment other than by saying thanks to all of you for showing up tonight. Thanks for your dedication and support. We're going to be having some great Tourney Tuesdays in the next coming Tuesdays with some of our highlighted merchant and tackle sponsors that are giving out some great prizes. And I got some stuff in the mail that we're going to be showing you tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. But in true Dave Mercer fashion, this is the best way we can leave this segment. Love you all. Take care. Stay safe. And we will see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock with Mike Console, Tourney Tuesdays. Yeah, baby.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.